Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we have another interview from a publishing professional. This time it's with a production controller. As you may have seen from one of my last videos, there was a production controller role at Hachette Children's that I talked about, so I'm going to try and plug that up here now. But today I hope you enjoy this video.
I think the biggest thing I wish I could do right now would be to travel. I'm sure I'm not the only person who would say that. But coming from Canada, where you get like 10 days of vacation a year, to the UK where it's like nearly a month, has been like life-changing. And I've really adapted to that new travel lifestyle and I miss it. And I hope that I can travel this year. So I'm a production controller at Arcturus Publishing. They're an independent in central London. We publish everything from non-fiction reference titles, puzzle books, adult coloring books, children's activity books, and a lot of the classics. So day to day, it really varies just based on all the titles you have and the different stages of production that they're in. So I might have some new titles assigned that I need to input the book spec into the system and generate a purchase order for the printer. Then I could have various titles that are plotter stage, so just circulating the proofs to the different departments, collecting all the corrections that are required, if any, and kind of just tracking where it is to make sure that I get those files or the approval back to the printer on time. And then you get some advances in after that. So I usually just check the books for any quality issues, and which hopefully there aren't any, and then pass them on to others to review. It's just tracking the vessels after that, making sure they're running on time, there's no huge delays to the warehouse, and then checking the printer's invoices. I've heard that like production in my company is actually quite different from other companies, mainly because we kind of handle like a bit more of the shipping process than other production controllers would. So we're kind of tracking the vessels and making sure that they're on time to deliver. Whereas I think most bigger publishers, they probably have like a logistics department or something that would deal with that. I'd say I have like a semi-traditional route into book publishing. So I completed the publishing degree at Oxford Brookes University. After graduation, I did have to go back to Canada, which really sucked because there's no publishing there. I mean, there's some publishing, but it's like companies that are run by like 5 people and you have to wait for someone to retire just to get in. So it took about a year after graduation for me to find a role, which was a production coordinator at a magazine publishing company. Did that for about a year and a half just to gain some experience. But it really made me realize that I would rather work with books and I really missed the UK. So I was able to get a temporary work visa to come back to the UK. When I got here, I worked with recruiters, which is very, very common in London and mainly in publishing. Which you'll notice if you're job hunting that, some publishers will publish roles on their website, but a lot will go only through recruiters. So they're extremely helpful. They helped me get my current role, and I've been here now for 2 years. So before lockdown, I worked in a lovely office in central London, near London Bridge area. And then since March, my office space has been my flat at the kitchen table. Working from home has been great. I love it. I kind of hope that I can keep doing it forever. Obviously you save on travel costs, which if anyone lives in central London, you know how insane they are. And then just getting to work from home with my partner has been really, really great. We share the kitchen table. By share, I mean I get this much space and he gets that much space, but it works. The only downfall I would say is when I have to have advanced copies shipped to my flat because it is so small. I really do not have the room for books. So that's probably the only downfall from working from home. I really love getting to work on new titles, like just seeing the initial cover design and then looking at the book specs and seeing, maybe we're printing colored end papers, maybe it's head and tail bands, maybe it's cloth bound title with maybe a slipcase or something extra like a pocket in the back of a book with like a folded mat that you can pull out and hang on your wall. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with books and in production. So just going from the original book spec to then seeing that final finished copy and flicking through that, I think it's really fulfilling to see that whole process and be a part of it. The biggest skills you need to be in production would be time management, project management. You need to be very, very organized because you're juggling a lot of different projects at once. So the other skill you need would be obviously to be able to multitask because you're constantly reprioritizing your workload. And then I'd say good communication skills because, I mean, what job doesn't need that? I think the most common progression in production would be you start as the production assistant, up to production controller where I am, then on to senior production controller, and then eventually production manager. I think you can pivot to like production editor maybe, but you probably have to have some really solid editorial skills for that. Oh, this question. This is such a common question I see all the time on publishing Twitter. It keeps everyone up at night, I'm sure. I struggle with this question just because I know the common advice out there to get into publishing. You have to be on Twitter, you have to be networking, join all the clubs. God forbid you don't have any work experience, like get a job as a bookseller or do, you know, a 2-week internship. That's all definitely important and do try to do that, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. I mean, I didn't get any publishing experience, like internships or anything, but I still work in publishing. So, I mean, it's entirely possible. The other thing I would say is, I mean, do you really need to do a degree? Just because I know when I was doing my degree, there was kind of this big push in the industry saying, you don't need a degree to get into publishing. You know, we'll accept people from all sorts of backgrounds. All skills are transferable. While that's well and true, I'm not sure that I've seen really any evidence of them accepting a lot of people from outside of publishing. At least like not in the last few years. I can't really say I've seen that. Other routes into publishing, I've heard there's the LDN apprenticeship. I think maybe that's something that's new, because had I known that there was an apprenticeship when I was thinking of getting into the industry, I would have totally done that over a degree. Mainly because, I mean, you're getting the same kind of knowledge about the industry, I'd say, between a degree and an internship. That's probably roughly the same. But with an an apprenticeship, you're getting like more hands-on experience that you would not get from a degree. And then, I mean, lastly, like the cost is huge. So if you can find another way in that doesn't involve, you know, paying an arm and a leg to get a degree, I would say do it. I guess another piece of advice though I would say is like really make sure that you want to work in publishing, because it is no secret that the pay is very, very low. So you may love books, but you may not be able to afford to buy books. And I guess one other thing I would say, if you're looking for a production role particularly, and maybe you didn't do the degree route, so you're kind of wondering, well, what kind of experience can I get? As I said, you need to be very organized, so any kind of role that you can get where you're kind of in charge of managing schedules or processes is really great. But also, this book production by Adrian Bullock. It is like the production Bible, I would say. But if you don't know anything about books, you know, whether it's hardback, paperback, what does 4x4 mean? What are differences in paper type, or what about the glue for binding? I mean, this book has literally everything in it. It is very, very good to read. I read it in university, obviously, but do read it. And Adrian is very, very lovely as well. Goodness, one book. I'm probably going to say more than one book because I read so much. I'd say one of the best books I read last year that really, really stuck with me was called The Eighth Life by Nino Haratischvili. I hope I said that right. She's Georgian. The book is like epic. It's 944 pages. It's kind of similar to War and Peace, I guess you could say, in the sense that, you know, it follows a family across generations and is based in Georgia as well as Russia. For me, I'm really interested in books about like Russian culture, so I loved getting to read about like this family who were technically in Georgia, which was part of the Soviet Union at the time, and just seeing a really realistic depiction of what life was like from, you know, the time of the Russian Revolution up to the Stalin years and further on, and seeing the changes in the countries and the people and everything that they've experienced. And it was such a good book. Another nonfiction book I would recommend is Playing Dead, A Journey Through the World of Death Fraud by Elizabeth Greenwood. Again, a topic you may not think you want to read about, but death fraud is extremely interesting, and the author like really delved deep into kind of like the black market and tells a lot of anecdotes of different people who've tried it. Oh, it's such an interesting book. So yeah, those are the big ones that I would definitely recommend.
So I hope you learned something from Kelsey's video today. Hope you found it useful. Do let me know in the comments if you did find it useful or what you learnt. Thank you.